And now, the general weather around Alaska.
Has this weather graphic here showing coastal flood warnings out for the Yukon Delta coast, St. Lawrence Island, as well as the Seward Peninsula area here, and the northwest coast, all the way up to Point Lay. And again, that's coastal flood warnings, along with high wind warnings for winds gusting 40 to 75 miles per hour through these areas, mostly across the Seward Peninsula there, and again, St. Lawrence Island. Then inland here, Noatak Valley eastward, we've got winter storm warnings for heavy snow and wind in those areas, winter weather advisory up toward Anatuvik Pass for lighter conditions on both counts there, and then a coastal flood advisory for the western Arctic coast, coastal flood warning for the central Arctic coast, and then high surf advisories out for the eastern Beaufort Sea coastline. Got winter storm warnings out for a wintry mix here into the central interior around the greater Fairbanks area on down into the Alaska range there. And that's for snow, heavy snow, freezing rain, rain and snow mixed, or just plain rain. Same thing for the Susitna Valley here. Got a winter weather advisory out for that area for, again, snow, freezing rain, and rain for all those areas. And that mostly north of Willow, or from Willow northward there for the Susitna Valley. And this is a coastal flood advisory out for Bristol Bay. And moving on to satellite imagery, you can see the big storm here coming in with a lot of cloudiness, snow all the way into Fairbanks, snow falling at Fairbanks all day today, picking about an inch, anywhere from 1 to 2 inches possibly there, and then extending back to the west here, where it turns into rain due to those strong southwest winds, southerly winds pulling warm air northward, peak wind gusts, Cape Lisburn, 77 miles per hour, and let's see, about 70 miles an hour at Wales, and gusty winds and snow changing to rain at Kotzebue today, and conditions extending down in the form of rain all the way down into the Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta. The front trailing off back to the west here kind of breaks up, another batch of moisture here coming eastward into the Bering Sea. There's a lot of high cirrus here starting to thicken up as it spills down, still a ridging aloft here just to the west, and then the flow over the top of that bringing some cirrus here on the increase across south central Alaska into Prince William Sound. Otherwise, not too bad here over the southeast coast. And on the chart today, areas of sunshine are clearing here for the Panhandle. Maybe not as extensive as what has got shown here, but it's definitely a drier day than it's been there. And up here to the northeast, some light snow there with a weak disturbance over the eastern areas, but rapidly heading eastward here. Snow into the central interior ahead of this front. And again, very strong winds, high wind warnings out. St. Lawrence Island, right on up across the Seward Peninsula to the western Arctic coast and the northwest coast with the coastal flood warnings all the way from the Kuskokwim Delta coast northward there to the central Arctic coast. And again, winds anywhere from 65 to 75 miles an hour here for the western capes up there along the northwest coast, and pretty strong winds gusting upwards of 70 miles an hour across St. Lawrence Island as well, and very windy conditions into the Yukon Delta. Again, rain extending all the way up to Cape Lisburn there, and along the warm front, kind of a mixed precipitation pattern there. Light winds today, Kodiak Island, temperatures mid to upper 50s across the island there, and just kind of a hazy sunshine for south central Alaska. For tonight, that front pushes eastward here, bringing the moisture all the way over toward the border there, with again a mixture of precipitation here in the central interior back to the northwest, and then just mostly rain with those strong winds continuing here from the northwest coast across much of the western interior, with that pushing into the mid-Yukon River Valley area. Winds lighten up along with the precipitation as it heads south and southwest along that front there as it drags across the western Aleutians. It'll stay dry for Kodiak Island. Clouds will thicken and lower south central Alaska and eventually the Copper River Basin overnight tonight as it stays clear with light winds for the Panhandle. It's going to result in some pretty chilly temperatures, especially in the northern areas. And for tomorrow, that front starting to weaken now as it comes eastward, banking up along the Alaska Range there, the pushing past the border there up toward Old Crow. And behind the front, downsloping winds, wind flow off the Brooks Range will make it a dry condition there with much milder temperatures in the north slope and the Arctic coastal areas, with mixed precipitation again on the heavy side in the central interior down to the Susitna Valley. Rain down across Bristol Bay and the southern Kuskokwim Valley, staying dry over the Aleutians with some sunshine, but winds still pretty gusty out of the west in that area. And then for the day on Tuesday, that low tracks eastward there, just north of Utagavik there in the central Arctic coast. Colder air comes in, and snowfall levels back down to the surface here for the central interior areas, with a pretty good shot of snow coming in with this feature into the Kuskokwim Valley, western Alaska range there, as that active trough swings into the interior. Drier to the east, scattering out of the showers to the west. Next system here back over the northwest Bering Sea, that's going to track eastward there, and then it'll reach the coast and kind of stall, and then the whole mess will slide off to the southeast later in the week. Otherwise, should stay dry again, as I mentioned, for Kodiak Island and south central Alaska. This moisture shifts eastward with that front now in a much weakened state, but it'll hold together enough to bring some rain down to that area in the Panhandle. Lows tonight down that way, 20 to 25. Northern southeast coast, some areas falling into the teens, and milder down to the south. And teens east side here, warming into the 20s, and then 30s to near 40 out toward the west of the lower 40s here. Bristol Bay, Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta coastline, Pribilofs, Aleutians, Unalaska, lows in the upper 40s. Highs for tomorrow, lower 50s here for Unalaska up toward King Salmon. 40s, lower 40s, or 40 to 45 right in the central interior areas. 35 to 40 for the Arctic coast and north slope. Mid 40s for the Pribilofs, and mid to upper 30s northern southeast coast to near 50 in the south. As you can see here, back into the mid 40s for the greater Anchorage area, upper 40s down across the Kenai Peninsula. And then for the lows on Tuesday morning, 20s for the Arctic coast, north slope area, mostly in the 30s here in the central interior, milder back to the west, a little chillier to the east there, and staying in the 30s here for south central Alaska, and 25 to 32 for the northern Panhandle, mid 30s to the south, near 40 for Kodiak, lower 40s there for the Aleutians. And then highs on Tuesday, mid 40s Bristol Bay. Otherwise, the interior here looking at highs in the 30s all the way up to the Arctic coast, and highs in the 40s for the southeast coast.